female. Is it possible that there could be maybe women, maybe managers, maybe assistants that get charged along with Diddy, or at least were investigated to say, hey, this guy didn't do it by himself. You guys helped. You put the girls in your rooms. They weren't staying in Diddy's room. They stayed under your name, in rooms under your name. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're going to use that as a bargaining chip to ensure that all of them cooperate against Diddy. Because obviously, so Diddy is going to be looked at as like kind of the head of the organization and maybe his assistant as the number two. So they're going to do everything in their power to ensure that they get successful prosecution against him. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they haven't already either A, brought her in, or B, made her a target in the investigation to some degree where she's cooperating or they're letting her know that you can be charged too. So they're definitely going to have these people ready to go and testify in this situation.
Yo, App, can you imagine how 50 Cent feels about this? His baby mama is helping Diddy do his dirt, bro. That's some messed up shit, bro. That's baby mama. That's wild.
Well, first, here's the thing, though. If I'm 50, we have to remember the timeline of things. So 50 goes on his rant after it's being known that she's mentioned in a lawsuit. What does she do? She actually accuses 50 Cent of R-wording her.
Yep.
Like, let's be clear. What 50 does? Okay, he files a lawsuit. At first, she didn't delete it. Then she deletes the post. Supposedly, and I can Google it, I think 50 is not going forward with the lawsuit, particularly for defamation, which we all know.
Yeah, we better have this conversation tonight.
He's going
Tap in. What am I YouTube? White Chalk. White Yellow Chick. White Chalk underscore podcast. YouTube. We talking about it.
This Diddy investigation / indictment. I think what Diddy and most men would find the biggest win is not suing your baby mama who was broke without you paying her for defamation. The best thing would be showing to family court, hey, maybe I deserve custody. Damn. My baby mama is a sex worker who's named in this indictment federally. And look, is that a play?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we all know that it's a lot harder for men to get custody of their children in family court, but showing that she's being a subject of or indicted in a federal sex trafficking case is absolutely going to swing it in the father's favor, especially someone like Diddy who has the resources to take care of the kids. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a play. For 50.
Wow. Man, yo, listen. So
Let's talk about it
tomorrow. Yo, I'm wondering what this indictment. So I also threw this into the air. I want you to react to. So if you listen to some of the other lawsuits, they try to say, like, even a few lawsuits, they were like, oh, the apple didn't fall too far from the tree.
So as I watched them speak about this, it seems as if I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I've been studying law, my entire life since I've been in the justice system. But it seems like a federal grand jury, was presented today, and they came back with a true bill. Like when you take a case in front of a federal grand jury, that's a jury of your peers. It's about 12 people who decide, they have to find evidence for every element of the crime presented to indict you. They ain't gotta find evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, but they gotta find evidence for every element of the crime that you're being accused of. And they say, and I agree that they say, they can indict a ham sandwich at the grand jury because they can. It's a process. It's a prosecutor by itself. Your lawyer don't have an opportunity to defend you. They present their case to, a jury of your peers, supposed to be your peer group, which is never is when you're a young black man in America that nobody can relate to. But yeah, a grand jury must have came back with a guilty verdict for Diddy today. So I'm gonna keep it. Let y'all hear him talk about it.
Everybody goes over to the crib.
Speak about it.
And when they're over there, maybe after a couple of days, things happened. Would they be considered accomplices at that point?
Yeah. Yeah, if they're inviting underage girls over.
Because I know a girl, like, I know a girl that talks about me and there for a couple days. She's over the age though. I'm just saying, like,
Oh, then that's in my life.
girls were not.
Yeah, I mean, if the thing is with the feds and human trafficking, when the kid is under 18, it's automatic. It's like a slam dunk. It's easy. Once they're of age, then it becomes tougher because
See, yeah. So they saying with the feds, so that people will hear sex trafficking or human trafficking, we always think like we kidnapping these motherfuckers and making them work, but that's not what the true definition of that is. They're saying that it's almost always the feds come with that charge when when it's a minor or a person that can't give consent when they're under 17. And that's why that thing goes so spiraled out of control. When the kids under 17, it's an automatic slam dunk case. But if they over 17, if they 18, because the legal limit for federal consent is 18, but in some states the legal limit is 17. So I wonder how that's gonna play out because Diddy was in New York State. They got case where they speaking about a young lady came to see Diddy in New Jersey, and the legal limit for consent in New York is 17 years old. Okay, but the federal law is 18 years old. So how that's gonna play with that state and federal contradiction? We're gonna have to see about that. Diddy was arrested today. He said he been cooperating the whole way. So I'm about positive that once he go in front of for his bail hearing tomorrow, which when it's a person is trying to get bail, the only thing they look at is, are you a safety and security threat to the community? Which, while him and his legal team cooperating with, the investigation the whole way through, that I'm sure that he will be able to get a bail tomorrow, and he will post bail, and I think that he'll be able to fight his case from society. And he won't have to sit and fight his case because he's been so cooperative. And person supposed to be innocent until proven guilty anyway. I think Diddy gonna make it home, y'all.
because now you got to prove certain things.
He
Oh,
should.
what if
Shit.
these kids are underage too? Like, is that okay?
Oh, you're saying like his kids being underage and helping him?
Yes.
Oh, probably state charge for that, like child neglect or something like that. But at a federal level, I don't think the kids, if they're underage, that like they're not. The feds really stay away from prosecuting juveniles.
Okay.
They try their best not to. It's very difficult to prosecute a juvenile at the federal level, at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. This is it's clear. It's
The
clear
Fed trying to prosecute juvenile.
Like, go sit in the courtroom if you can.
Shit.
Initial appearance.
As soon as you get 17, 18, they come get your ass.
Tell me. So
They come grab you.
this is a sealed case. Is it possible
Oh,
that
that's right. No.
is it going to be in an open courtroom? Like we don't know. Like I mean,
Yeah, it is. So everything in federal court is open unless it's like a FISA court. No, it's going to be open. We just got to figure out. I'm going to look right now on Pacer and see. Obviously, the case is sealed right now, but they're going to unseal it. It's just a matter of like figuring out when they do initial appearance.
I looked on Pacer. The case isn't there, which I'm guessing if the initial indictment isn't there, you just can't find the case. But I'm pretty sure it'll appear in the morning. But there isn't a case that originates in the last like week for
Yo, you want to dispel this myth, bro? They're saying that we went to a Diddy party, which we did not. Please tell them, bro.
Me? Hell nah, nigga, the fuck.
No, nigga.
No. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's like this is where we're gonna get like so much more information from this indictment. But by the way, and still continue off what you're saying, Fresh. But what I also want to ask Myron is like this is we see all the time in like these gang or sometimes RICO cases with gangs obviously we see maybe sometimes an indictment, then we see a superseding indictment. You know, sometimes they bring more shit into it. Do we think that whatever indictment that gets unsealed tomorrow, that's it, what he's facing? Like, right? Or are they still maybe trying to cook up something that they could try to hit him with, or whatever we see unsealed tomorrow, that's gonna be the mountain that he has to climb?
Yeah, no, they can absolutely do a superseding indictment. They did it for R. Kelly.
Did they?
They did a superseding indictment for him, I think, later on. And for the audience that's wondering, a superseding indictment, guys, is nothing more than you get him indicted right by the grand jury the first time, and then you can come back. And I know 6ix9ine did a superseding indictment. Let's say during the course of the
Yeah,
investigation,
they added the niggas who kidnapped him.
exactly. So you can come back and you can do a superseding indictment and charge other conspirators or add charges to it. You convene with the grand jury again. They do another meeting. You indict them again, and you add more charges or add more targets.
Hey, this is gonna sound like a ridiculous question.
Yeah.
Ballpark me on this. You know, me, classic pocket watcher. Listen, I'm the best when it comes to pocket watching. I love doing it. What are we thinking of? Like, I look at the raids. We got to think the manpower. We're convening a grand jury for like 3 months. This is Diddy. What do you think the feds are in terms? Obviously, like, we're talking about budgets here and resources, but how much you think they have put behind this case so far?
Couple million easily, bro.
Really?
I mean, to do a wiretap, to give you guys kind of an idea, to do a wiretap for a month, right, costs about $50,000. So, and that's just a wiretap, right? But like, it's very expensive to run an investigation between, you know, surveillance, doing warrants, going out and interviewing a lot of these witnesses that probably aren't in New York City. You have to go out to other places to interview them. And obviously, with a case like this, as a case agent, I want to make sure that I'm out there to do some of these interviews. Yeah, they spent, you know, doing surveillance, tracking his assets. That's the other thing too, is they're probably going to try to identify someone like this. They're going to identify his real assets for forfeiture, right? What they can and can't take. Doing the search warrants where they did a multiple search warrants. They did one in Miami and they did one in LA at the same time, simultaneous search warrants. The amount of coordinating between 2 different field officers to do it, actually 3 field officers, because New York ran the investigation. You have to send a collateral case to Miami, then you got to send a collateral case to LA. So off rip, I already know that they got 3 open investigations on Diddy in 3 different jurisdictions and 3 different field offices, and that's 3 different Eagle States offices that are dealing with it as well. Because you have to get search warrants in those jurisdictions, which means you have to go through the United States Attorney's offices in those different jurisdictions. You can't write a judge can't give you a search warrant in the Southern District of New York for a house that's in the Southern District of Florida. You need to go to a judge in the Southern District of Florida to get that warrant signed. So that means more than likely a Miami agent had to swear out the affidavit down here, unless the case agent flew down, but he probably did. So, yeah, man, we're millions of dollars.
Right?
What was that? Sorry?
They got all type. This shit crazy.
Oh, yeah, but for a case like
It's all
this,
type of stuff
the
going
cases are
on.
Probably flying all over the country to
They
interview
got
witnesses
Diddy.
and everything like this.
I
Because this
can't
case
believe
is
they
a-
fucking
more of
arrested
a
Diddy,
historical
man.
case. So it's going to be heavily reliant upon
Crazy.
witness testimony, which means you got to track these motherfuckers down, find out where they're at, interview them, do multiple interviews, make sure you get the story straight. You know, you're preparing them and everything else like that. So, you know, it's going to be tough. And then obviously they're doing great. They've had the grand jury convene for months now for this particular investigation, bringing witnesses in, right? Because we know that they've had this grand jury open up for a few months. And I assume that was predominantly to get a lot of these witnesses and to give their testimony so that they can get a true bill of indictment.
Hey, humor me for a second. And I'm going to be a little bit into the conspiracy theory lane, but I was just asking a question that I've seen people ask before. What is the possibility that, you know, okay, Diddy could possibly, you know, okay, he's taken into custody, but he could probably wiggle and squeeze his way out of this by saying,
He might get out of
I
this.
got a bigger fish for y'all to fry. Hey, have y'all heard about my boy Sean Carter, Jay-Z, Jigga Man, or I'm not saying that him, but anybody, like just somebody else that they have to be like, I could throw somebody else under the bus for you to get me out of this shit. Hey, you ever heard of Clyde Dave? Like, do you think that possibly the feds will be down to say, hey, Diddy, I think you could give us a bigger fish? Or are we saying, nah, Diddy's a big fish enough, it would look crazy if they gave him a deal to give up somebody else.
Sure. And I can explain this because this is kind of a more nuanced question when it comes to informants and, hierarchy and stuff like that. So typically when you open up a case, right, you open up a case under what's called a file title, right? It's going to be your main target and then et al., right? Which means basically him and whoever else is involved. Guaranteed this case is probably Sean Combs et al. He's the main guy and then everyone falls underneath him, right? If you look at the 6ix9ine case, it was, there's a number of those, there's a top down.
Oh, yeah, no, actually, you're right. Yeah.
Yes.
It was, yeah.
His real name, I forget his real name, Jamel or something like that. Mel Murder was his name. But the case title in 6ix9ine's case was Mel Murder. So this is how it works when it comes to informants. So I'll give you guys kind of a thing for your audience here. If you're going to cooperate with the government, you're going to cooperate, you're going to be an informant, etc. You better not be the fucking top guy, because more than likely, when you're the top guy, they're not going to cut you a deal because you're the file title, you're the main dude. Unless you have some crazy fucking person that you're going to give up. Maybe it's a dirty cop, a dirty officer, dirty agent, some shit like that, not a dirty politician. It's very unlikely that you're going to get time off when you're the file title. Now, what I will say is, and this is why 6ix9ine got such a great deal, 6ix9ine was what I would call like the sweet spot, right? He was in a position of power, but he wasn't so high up where he couldn't necessarily work a deal, but he was also not so low where he didn't know the inner workings of the game.
They just arrested Diddy
And the guy that made
on my Instagram, YouTube to see the full video. It's about Diddy getting arrested.
What was going on at the upper echelon, but at the same time, he knew the guys on the lower level and he was able to give information on them. That's why he was able to give information on, was it Kuda? Right? And get time off despite him giving an order for him to go shoot a Chief Keef. And he was also able to give information on the guys that were above him. And that knocked off his sentence significantly because he was in the perfect position. So he was in that great spot to get people above him and below him. But when you're the top guy, it's very difficult to get a deal and get cooperation points because you're the file title. Unless you're able to get like some extraordinary target, a corrupt individual who's in a position of public trust, it's going to be very difficult for you to get time off.
Wow. And by the way, chat, you guys see as posted on DJACDEMS TV, the Instagram and the Twitter account, says USA Damian Williams, which is the U.S. attorney. He said earlier this evening, federal agents arrested Sean Combs.
They got a sealed indictment. They're going to unseal the indictment tomorrow. So they saying they're going to unseal.
And we'll have more to say at that time. By the way, here's the thing. I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah, this shit crazy.
I know Aiden's probably hit my phone right now, but he's live right now.
This shit's serious.
I think this is Combi, this is Cuffham, and Fousey. And Fousey supposedly said that one of his boys went to a Diddy party, and they invited him to Diddy's room, where I guess Fousey's friend claimed that, and I'm sorry to be bringing other people's names into this, but it says Trigger Trey, aka Trey Songz, was straddling and sitting on Diddy's lap, making out with him. Let me just play this real quick. I think you guys should be able to hear it.
I could say something about a Diddy party right now, but I don't know the rules of the game if I'm allowed to say it.
Say it. You'll be okay.
One of my boys, a social media influencer, this was early back in like 2018.
What's one of your boys?
This shit crazy.
I'm not gonna expose him because he said some Bible shit, but he was at a Diddy party and they invited him to Diddy's room. He walks in, Trey Songz was sitting on Diddy's lap making out with him, and they asked him if he wanted to join.
What the fuck?
No, ain't no way.
They're all gay. They're all undercover gays. I promise you that.
Yo, that's crazy.
I promise you that.
That is crazy.
I could say something.
Wait.
That is crazy, bro.
Oh my god.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I don't know what the hell's going on here.
Trigger Trey, man.
Yo,
Trigger, bro.
Okay, so how do you draw the line? And I want you to keep your investigator hat on. How do you draw the line between, okay, this is industry? Because here's the thing. There's been a lot of, it's so funny that half of these niggas love Diddy parties. And then you'll hear something like, oh, this has never seen that, whatever. But it's like, Diddy party is like a spectacle. It's always been a hip hop. If you're an investigator, how do you draw the line between, oh, okay, this is just some harmless fun shit, or maybe not harmless fun shit, but shit we shouldn't, spend time or expend our energy into or resources trying to like hunt down versus this is the true crime that's happening here. Like, how do you pick that out? Because it appears that he was, he was nonstop. Like he was on some take that shit.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing, right, and I'll tell you this,
Crazy.
me wearing that hat, like you asked before, keep your investigator hat on. And this is gonna sound very fucked up.
So the indictment is sealed until the morning. Then it's gonna be unsealed. We don't even know what he really charged with right now. We'll know everything in the morning when they unseal it.
At the federal level, you have a higher threshold to prove a case and get prosecution and prove it guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Like the feds don't lose for a reason because they take their time and they go after the things that they can actually prove. So in this situation, some dudes, doing some questionable activities, etc. Is that going to be a sexy to an AUSA a lot of the times? Probably not. But if you got a female victim who's underage and she's saying that, hey, I was assaulted and I was GR'd, right, by a group of men, well, that's going to be a lot easier to sell to the U.S. Attorney's Office for prosecution. And at the end of the day, guys, right, getting your case accepted by the AUSA's office for prosecution is not as easy to do as people think it is because they have a lot of discretion what they take and what they don't take. So you need to go after the things that are tangible, the things that you can prove, and the things that is going to get their attention.
Yo, ain't no way you believe that, bro.
What?
You believe that?
Believe what?
That? No way, bro. You don't believe that, do you?
I mean, I'm not getting charged, but I think I do have the right to be silent. Anything, I'm just. Yeah. The only reason why I only expound before anybody say some weird shit like, no. I'm gonna be honest with you. Sexually, I've heard many things about many people in this industry. Some and a lot of them happen to be sex symbols. So there's, I never want to throw nobody under the bus because I don't never want nobody to do that.
Yeah, shit.
But
Shit's serious.
Trey Songz is a very, very there are conversations about him. I won't say illegal, but conversations about him into different things. And I'm not saying he's homosexual. I'm not saying anything else. What I'm saying is that when I hear sexually explorative like conversations and it mentions Trey Songz or Diddy,